Hey everybody, welcome in. Dave Celentano here with Guitar Tricks, Wednesday night YouTube class. We're working on week 2 of Phrygian. Let's check out everybody real quick. My knees hurt. Hello, folks. All right, cool. Steve's here. All right, my knees hurt. Hey, you can watch it later on after you get done with work. You can catch it on YouTube after the fact. And Lisa, all right, cool. Danny, good evening. All right, so we're working on the Phrygian mode, everybody. Gonna hit the ground running. Hey, Russ. Cool. So we talked about something, the unique qualities with Phrygian from last week are the flat 2 and the flat 6. It's the Dorian's mode has a flat 3 and a flat 7, which make it have a minor sound. The Phrygian additionally has, on top of the flat 3 and flat 7, it's got the flat 2 and flat 6. So we got a lot of notes that are lowered to give it more of a dark scale, a dark sounding scale. Okay. Review real briefly the patterns we did last week. Hey, Second Chance Band, cool, and King 50, and Dana, cool. I'm gonna play through the pattern 1 from the curriculum. If you open up the text, expand the text box underneath the YouTube video, you'll see an area where it says curriculum. You can print it out from right there. Cool. All right, some of the local or usual suspects, cool. In California, cool. Oh, Paul, all right. Hello, Paul. Good to see you here. Richard, cool. Zane, all right. So, and it's always good too when you want to get a hang of the modes to play the modes with the same root note and compare the sound of it. All right. So I'm going to continue to do that as we get deeper into these modes. We'll always listen to it compared to some of the other modes we've already learned. And that's a big part of hearing this and getting used to the modes is listening and understanding what makes it different, not just knowing the pattern up and down the fretboard. All right, you can play that. Anyone can sit there and play it up and down, but to recognize some of the sounds of those notes. The flat 2 right out of the hatch, the dark minor third, the 4 and the 5 are unchanged. They're pretty steady. The flat 6, the flat 7, and back to the root. That gives you that unique, darker quality. One more time. Yeah, cool. Zach's here. Zach Lee. Great name, too. I like that, Zach. Cool. And then my knees hurt. It says flat 2 is Jaws soundtrack. Exactly. So you can use some of these little ear training intervals and melodies that we use to learn the intervals. By the way, the good ear training with the intervals that talking about the flat 2 and recognizing it as the soundtrack for the Jaws movie. This. That's a flat 2. When you play any note and then the note right above it and go back and forth, that's a minor second interval right there. We got a lot of lessons on this on Guitar Tricks too, folks. So not just learning to play guitar, but doing some things to help you be a better musician, like learning a little bit of the theory, learning what these intervals sound like, and associating little cartoon themes, movie themes, commercials, soundtracks, maybe melodies, little nursery school rhymes, any pieces of music that we've heard in our past that we're familiar with. You can use the first 2 notes of them as an interval reference for recognizing what the intervals sound like. Okay, so if you go watch the videos on Guitar Tricks, I believe Christopher Schlegel is the instructor teaching them. He does a great job, and he gives you some of those reference melodies. So those help a lot, not just saying a minor second sounds dark, but hearing something. And then what my niece said with the Jaws theme right there. All right. And I teach this type of stuff to my students as well. And it's amazing too. Once you know those melodies, and if you study them a little bit, how quickly you can grab a hold and hear the intervals. I do this with my students, and I duck my guitar below so they can't see what I'm playing, and I'll play an interval. And a lot of times they get them right because they have those melodies they're familiar with to lock it in. And you can't use your guitar or a tuner to check what I play. All right. So it's a good way of just using your ears and making your ears stronger. And people, we're musicians, right? That's what playing an instrument is. So it would behoove us to get these two things on each side of our head sharper sounding, sharper muscles, build your ear muscles. Okay. So anyway, we got pattern 1 was one of the cage patterns, right? And if some of you are familiar with the cage, you would recognize this one, this pattern as the C form cage pattern. Okay, but we're not going to think of it as C major. We're going to think of it because the root note changes, although it is the same notes as the C major scale. The focusing the root away from C and onto the E brings out a whole other tonality. Plus, if you play them over an E chord, right? Listen what that sounds like, the E string. So you can really hear that. It sounds very Middle Eastern and kind of mysterious. Joe Satriani does some of his songs in the Phrygian mode. Joe Satriani knows about these modes, knows how to use them. He's got some of his songs have a Lydian sound. Some of them have a Mixolydian sound. I'll bring up some of those once we start working on those modes in the next few weeks. Okay. Then the other one we covered last week, folks, is the 3-note per string version. It's the same notes, but this is a little bit easier to play in some respects because there's 3 notes on every string. So if you're doing some speedy licks, you can go through it and the picking pattern is relatively the same. You can also go down. Something to that effect. You get the idea, though. It's a lot easier to play the faster runs if you got the same number of notes per string. Finger tapping, same thing. Okay, it's a lot easier to play quicker. If you're familiar with some of the Van Halen type of licks, they're usually 3 notes on a string. Okay, it's a lot easier to move quickly with that type of stuff. Also, too, if you're into maybe not the finger tapping or picking fast, you can play legato style, 3 notes on a string. You can pick the high note and pull off. Randy Rhoads did this type of 3-note per string a lot. But usually he did it in an ascending manner where he would go up. Okay, Mr. Crowley had some runs like that. Crazy Train. At the end, he just hammers on. He picks the first note, hammers on the next 2 notes. Move to the next string, same thing. Okay, you could do this and practice this with the 3-note per string version of Phrygian that I've got on that first page. Okay, cool. All right. Oh, what are you saying? My knees hurt. Iron Maiden has a few songs I think that use this mode. Power Slave. Yep, they definitely do, and they're it's part of a lot of heavy metal bands use the Phrygian mode because it's kind of dark and it fits with that style of that music, that genre. They also use a lot of Aeolian mode, which we're going to go over in a few weeks. Aeolian is the 6th pattern. So we got a few more weeks to go before we get that. Phrygian, folks, is the 3rd pattern or the 3rd mode. All right, we've already covered Ionian. And we're doing all these in the key of C major, but what we're doing is moving the notes of C major. We're taking all the same notes, but we're starting on, instead of the C, we're starting on the 2nd note of the C major scale, which is D. That would be for the Dorian mode, and in making D the focus. Today and last week, we're working on Phrygian, which is the third mode. The third mode starts on the third note in the major scale. So in C major, the third note is E. Okay? And even though we're playing the major scale, by changing the focus of where the root is, it brings out a different sound. And then it's really works, folks. You can really get a good grip on these too by playing them over just a 1-chord vamp or a 2-chord vamp. Something really simple. We don't want to play over a billion chords and think you're playing in the Phrygian mode. Just work it over 1 chord. It's very hypnotic. Like one rhythm that I like to do is going from the E. Oh, and also the third chord in the scale matches the third mode. In other words, the third chord is minor. Let's go over that real briefly. We did this last week, and I believe the week before. The first chord in C major is major. That goes with the first mode, Ionian, which is a major sounding mode. The second chord in C major is D minor. It goes with the second mode, D Dorian. Dorian has a minor sound. The third mode, or the third chord in the key of C major, is E minor. That goes with the third mode, which is Phrygian. That has a minor sound. You can hear the minor third in the E minor chord is your middle finger. Okay? The fourth chord in C major is F major. That goes with the fourth mode, which is Lydian. Lydian has a major sound. It has a major third, and it goes with the F major chord. Okay? It goes up the fretboard like that. So I'm not going to go all the way up today because we're not going into those modes yet. We're going to just camp out on the Phrygian. So what I'm going to do is write a rhythm using some of the chords in the key of C. Okay? And specifically, we're going to start with the E. And if you want to play bar chords, you would need to play E minor. And what makes it sound really Phrygian, and you know it has a Phrygian sound when the very next chord is a half step higher. You got this sound. And then I move up 1 fret to the F, 8th fret. The F chord in the key of C is major, so it needs to be a major chord. So you could just get a little rhythm going. Okay, just putting around with those 2 chords, you know. You can hear it right there. And then try to jam over it. If you have a looper pedal, record yourself playing a good little simple rhythm, and then jam on it. If you have a drum machine, that would be cool too, to throw that in there. A little bit more of a heavy metal rhythm you could do. Just play power chords, E up to F. Kind of hear some old Scorpions doing that type of stuff. What also sounds cool is to go to the chord below E, which is D, and just play the power chord. So what I'd do is a little rhythm like this. You know, not crazy fast and not a billion chords, but just something simple that I play over. Okay, so you got that going. Let me just play some stuff over, just a simple little backing track here. Let me just read the comments real quick. Okay, my niece hurts, throwing up a lot of good comments. Let me read them real quick. Next one says relative minor. I know C major and A minor really, really well, I think. Took me like 1 million years to get those down. Hey, well, congrats, my knees hurt, that you got them down. That's cool. Excellent, excellent. So the C major is the Ionian mode, and the A minor is the 6th chord in the key of C, goes with the 6th mode, which is Aeolian. We're going to talk about that in a few weeks. Cool. Now today we're working on the third chord in the key of C, which is the E minor chord. And he says a good way to remember the name order of the modes is I don't play loud much after lunch. Oh, wow. I don't play loud much after lunch. Oh, wait, time out. I read it wrong. I don't play loud music after lunch. I like that little mnemonic device. That is too cool. My knees hurt. Right on. You're making me smile here. So what he's saying, if you read the comments, everybody, or if you can't see him, the sentence he says is, I don't play loud music after lunch. It's 7 words. Each word starts with a letter that also is the first letter of each mode in the right order. Ionian, I. Dorian goes with don't. Phrygian goes with play. Lydian, we're going to talk about that next week, goes with loud. Music goes with the Mixolydian. After goes with Aeolian, A. And lunch is the last one, Locrian. That's pretty cool. I'm going to need to remember that one. I don't play loud music after lunch. Thank you. And I think Abang likes that too. Very cool. Oh, and wait. Second Chance Band saying, the one I know, I don't phone Lydia much any longer. That's a cool one too. Right on. All right. All these little tricks for remembering things, folks. It's like when I was mentioning to you earlier tonight about learning your intervals just by sound, recognizing what that interval is, or that interval, or that interval, just by sound, not touching your guitar, not touching your tuner to see what the notes are, but just listening. And that's not perfect pitch, people. That's relative pitch. That relative pitch is what most musicians have. And it's not that hard to achieve. It just takes a little practice. Perfect pitch is when they not only can tell the interval distance between the notes, but they can tell what the notes are called, like a D and a B. A D to a B would be a major 6. I don't have perfect pitch, and I don't know many of my musician friends that do. I've had a few students in the past that had perfect pitch, but it's only been a couple students out of, I've been working with doing this teaching a long time. I've literally taught over a couple thousand people between the one-on-one lessons, private lessons, and my group classes. I do around a lot of students, and I've only found 2 specifically that had perfect pitch. I was amazed because they could tell me what notes I was playing in some of the sophisticated jazz chords, and it was pretty amazing. Yeah. But anyway, relative pitch is what we want to get down. Okay, that's going to help you, and that's a lot easier to learn. And any of these mnemonic devices associating a melody that we've heard before with the intervals, a lot of folks know what is it? Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie, for the name of your strings, or elephants and dogs grow big ears. Okay, getting off track of the modes here a little bit, but we're getting the idea. Yeah, cool. Second Chance Band, that's a good one too. And then Descending Fifth, the Flintstones theme. Yes, exactly. Descending fifth. When you do the intervals, not but descending. So if you do a fifth backwards, the Flintstones theme. Cool. Yeah, all those little tricks help, folks. And when they're there to be offered out, I share them with the students. But sometimes some things, I know a lot of folks are looking for the secret recipe, how do you do that magic trick? Most of the things with music and playing guitar, it's not really a trick. It's just a lot of dedicated practice. Just picking your guitar up and working on this stuff. It's a slow, steady race. Cool. And my knees hurt said every acid. All right. All right, cool. You got some more. Cool. Bottle empties and down goes Charles' father. All right, cool. Enough of that. All right, so folks, listen to the sound of the Phrygian and just getting the patterns under your fingers. And then the chord, notice this too, one more thing, and I'll play a little example for you. the bottom chord right here is your E minor bar chord. I also wrote it back here in the open position, but I wanted, normally we won't play a bar chord up at the 12th fret, but I wanted to put it there so that you can see how all the notes of the E minor chord there, if you go straight up, you can see that they're all right here in the cage pattern for the E Phrygian. Those chord tones, everybody, are the ones you really want to focus on. So when you're playing pattern 1, know that the 12 on the 6th string is a chord tone. The 14 on the 5th string, 14 on the 4th, those are chord tones. And then 12 on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. Now notice that the notes one fret up from the 1st and 2nd string are half steps. Those give it that mysterious sound. Also, the 3rd string, there's not a half step there, but that is a good note, that chord tone, that G, okay? Then you got back to the 4th string and 5th, you got a half step there, which sound very mysterious. And then, okay? So you focus on those notes as you're playing over a backing track, and that's how you kind of hear the sound of it. Here's a track, E minor to F. Follow the chords, E minor, F major. Okay, you get the idea. Now I could keep jamming and screwing around and having fun with it, but that's not what this lesson's about. It's not about watching me play. I would love to do that. But if you go to my YouTube channel, folks, just search my name. I believe it's my name, or I also titled my YouTube channel Wicked Music Box, which is the title of my one CD right there. Okay, I got 4 solo CDs all out behind me right there. But if you want to hear me play, just go to my YouTube channel. There's not lessons. I'm not talking. I'm not teaching anything. I'm just playing blues stuff, two-hand tapping stuff, classical stuff, Spanish guitar stuff, Spanish style, some hard rock stuff, all kinds. So I know I've seen some comments where they say that me, the instructor here, talks too much. But if you want to not hear me talk, just go to my YouTube channel. I got a ton of videos there. Okay. But if you want to learn something, come here. And I'm just going to try to explain to you what I'm thinking when I'm playing over the chord changes like that. Now, as you're playing it, try to focus on hearing the sound of those notes. All right. See, check this out. All right. I see my knees hurt is cutting out. So have a good night, man. We'll see you next week. All right. We're going to start Lydian next week. But listen to this, how I'm going to focus on those chord tones, and then I'm going to circle the chord tones with the note above it. 12th fret on the first string is a chord tone. Then I play the note above it, back to it, and then the note below it, and then back to the chord tone. And I go up a string, folks. You got the same idea there. And then on the third string, you can do that, but you got to go. Whoops. So hear how that sounds over the track? Okay, you just walk through it. Now we're going to try something a little different today and work on, go to page 2, everybody. This is the B Phrygian, but in the key of B instead of E, because what I want to do is also, if you don't have a backing track, you don't have a looper pedal, don't worry about it. You can practice this type of stuff against your open strings while you play something on a higher string. So if you look at example 1 at the top of the page, I've got everything on 2 strings. The second string is going to be open. That's easy. You don't have to do anything on that one. But on the first string, we've got the entire scale in 1 octave going from the 7th fret, first string, which is the B note, up to the 19th fret, which is the octave B. Okay, so you can, it sounds sort of like a sitar. If I clean up my sound a little bit, get away from that overdrive. Okay, so the B string will be your tonality. And you can do this on any other strings too. You can do this on the low E. We'll try some stuff with that in a little bit. But right now, just play the string B and then the first string at the 7th fret. That'll be the first note. A good way to think about the modes too is numerically and with whole steps and half steps. So the more ways we can understand the mode, the better you'll understand it and you'll be able to use it and play it. Page 1, numerically, the Phrygian mode is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. What does that mean? We're taking the major scale and flatting all those degrees. So the C major scale, well, if we flat the 2, it would go. If we flat the 3, which is that, it would be that note. Okay? And then the 4th and 5th don't change. They're the same as major and Phrygian and Dorian. Okay? Then we got a 6, but now we got to play a flat 6. And then the major 7 would be there to the root, but now it'll be a flat 7. So if you know the formula, you can build the scale, the pattern, anywhere on the fretboard. And what I just did, folks, was play this pattern, the cage pattern that we learned for Phrygian, but I started on the C note. See how that sounds a lot darker than C major, which sounds like do, re, mi. Okay, so that you want to think about it, try to understand the number system and wrap your head around it. Another way to think about it too, everyone, is if you've done your scale theory, building the major scale, you'll know that the major scale formula with whole steps and half steps is whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Okay, so what I mean by that is the whole steps are 2 frets apart on the guitar on any one string. Half steps are 1 fret apart on any one string. So if I was doing a C major scale on the first string, I would start on, well, C would be the 8th fret first string. If I go a whole step from the C, would be up 2 frets. You can just do this with one finger. Another whole step would be the 12th fret. Another, or a half step, would be 1 fret to the 13, whole step to the 15, whole step to the 17, whole step to the 19, half step to the 20. And then you also want to get familiar with it going backwards. A whole or a half step descending, then 3 whole steps, a half step, and 2 whole steps. Half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Okay? That's the C major scale with the whole steps and half steps. You can build any scale, any major scale that way if you know the formula, the wholes and halves. Now, let's apply that or think about what that would be for the Phrygian. The Phrygian, and it's your answers, everybody, are right up here at the top of the page. The wholes and halves are written above it. H stands for half. You'll see an H between the, up here above the music and the tablature, between the first, second notes. It's half, then it goes whole, right? Then another whole, and then what do we got next? Then there's a half, and then a whole. I'm sorry, we got half, 3 wholes, half, and 2 wholes. So it's shifted. We still have 5 whole steps and 2 half steps, but they're in different spots, okay? That's another way to think about your scale. If you're playing on one string, this is actually really important because you'll not only hear it, but you'll see it too, okay? So let's try playing the B Phrygian mode on one string, but we're going to use the second string as a drone so we can kind of hear the tonality of that Phrygian, okay? So we start on the 7th fret, and then we go up to the 8th fret. Already you can hear the dissonance there. Hear that flat 2 against the root? Okay, very dissonant. Then we go a whole step. There's your minor 3rd. Another whole step. That's your perfect 4th. And then a half step. I'm sorry, a whole step. My bad, folks. That's your perfect 5th. Then a half step to the 6th, because we have flat 6. Whole step to the flat 7. And then another whole step to the root. Yeah. Akita just entered. Good to see ya. And then Taylor Hill saying, finally made a live class. Cool. Love this series. Keep up the great work. Appreciate it, Taylor. Thanks, sir. Okay, so just walk it up slow. It's not about playing fast here. This isn't about using all your fingers. We're just trying to listen to the sound and get familiar with the wholes and half steps. So Phrygian goes half. There's 1 fret, then a whole, and then a whole, and another whole, and then a half. You know that minor 6 sounds? It sounds a little dissonant. And then your flat 7, and then the root. Try backwards. So we're going to go descend a whole step, another whole step, then a half step, then a whole. And you hear how that last whole step, it really wants to be resolved to the root. And it's very sitar-ish when you hear that open string in the background. You say Akita saying, I am a guitar fresher. Been playing saxophone lately, but love these lessons already. I was missing some more scales. Yeah, well, welcome to here. The modes will definitely help you out. But my advice to you is try to go further than just learning how to play the pattern up and down and remembering the shape on your fretboard. Try to understand the flat 2, the flat 3, and the flat 6 and 7 of Phrygian. And also listen what it sounds like playing over a chord. And for doing E Phrygian, just play an E power chord. And then you can practice the scale on, like if you got your E string ringing. You could build your scale on the 5th string, starting with the E note. See, that's the sound of Phrygian right there. Digest that, get that sound in your ears. Jeff, all right, cool. Yeah, long time no see. And you're welcome, Akita. You're very welcome. So let's work with the first string, though. Just that's what the tablature says. I don't want to confuse anybody. But you can do this concept on any other strings, too. Use the string below the one you're going to finger and keep the one below it open. Okay. And in fact, you could even use the same frets as we're doing for the B Phrygian. Okay. You could do that on the open low E and the fifth string. Do your same frets as the B Phrygian, but we're just up on the fifth string. Okay. Try it on the high E is where we got it written. Like okay, so let's walk up slowly, just one finger. I'm going to talk to you about what I just did in 1 sec. Okay. Up a half step, whole step to the 10th fret, 12th fret, 14, 15, 17, 19. And then try to get it down backwards. 19, 17, 15, 14, 12, 10, 8, 7. 8, 7. Okay, get comfortable with that. The only set of strings that you can't do these frets on, folks, is the G and the B string because of that odd tuning we do on your guitar. You know, when you tune in the 5th fret, everything's tuned in 4th. But when we get to the 3rd string and 2nd string, we got to go back to the 4th fret, 3rd string. Okay? So if you want, you could raise everything 1 fret on the 2nd string and play your open G. Kind of sounds like you hear that Rolling Stones song, Sympathy for the Devil, I believe. Right? I think I'm thinking of the right one. That's a good example. What else did we talk about last week? Yeah, Creeping Death from Metallica. I think Sad But True has a Phrygian type of sound from Metallica. Miserlou from Dick Dale, you know, the surf guitars. He picks... this low E really quick. He's actually playing a modified Phrygian, and I talked about that last week. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Another one is Black Star from Yngwie, and it's the same. You hear that song from Yngwie, Black Star. Check it out on YouTube. It's just the bass going. And then he's doing. Playing those dark sounds. Okay, flamenco music does that a lot. When they do the Spanish, they play E major, up a half step to F, and then back down to the E. Okay, but they modify the scale slightly. I'll come back to that in a bit. I did talk about that last week, but it's not exactly what the Phrygian is. So let me finish our page 2 here, and then if we have time, I'll go over that. It's actually really cool. If you change one note in the Phrygian, it sounds even cooler, I think. Okay, but let's get to that in a minute. So you can do the open low E, and you can practice playing on your 5th string using the whole steps and half steps described. Okay, now jump down to the 3rd and 4th examples here. These are some good little exercises to help you really make sure you know the pattern and the whole steps and half steps up and down the fretboard. Now, remember when you first learned your pentatonic scale? Okay, the A blues. Okay, most of you have done that in sequences of 3s. I know I have all my students do that when they learn the pentatonic scale. On our Guitar Tricks website, Christopher Schlegel's got pentatonics in threes, some great exercises and different speeds. I also have my students work with his videos because he's got some really good practice stuff up there for him. But the sequence was doing your pentatonic in threes, going up 3 notes at a time from every note in the scale. Then from the second note, from the third note. And then back down. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We're going to do that with the Phrygian mode on the first string. That's what this third example is. We're going to go 7, 8, 10. And on this, you can use whatever fingers you want. I just kind of do 1 finger per fret. And you could just do all downstrokes for now to get it. And then the next one, we're going to move our hand up. Every set of 3 on there, you notice how the tablature's got them bracketed in triplets. So let's focus on 1 set of 3 notes at a time. And then you move your hand up a fret or 2 and then play the next 3 notes. So the first 3 we're going to go are 7, 8, and 10. Then we're going to move up 8, 10, 12. Move up and go 10, 12, 14. 12, 14, 15. 14, 15, 17. And then the last one is 15, 17, 19. So you got this. And then try, I think that's the last one. Oh, you know what? I go 14, 15, and then right to 19. That's the way the tablature is written. But if you want, you could also do the 15, 17, 19. Okay. And then the next example, bottom 1 on the page, is the Phrygian descending on the first string in threes. We're going to start from the 19 on the first string, and then we're going to go 19, 17, 15. Then move your hand back and do 17, 15, 14. Back, do 15, 14, 12. Back, do 14, 12, 10. Back and do 12, 10, 8. And you can really hear the dissonance there. And then, last one goes 12, 10, 8, and into 7. And then this also sounds cool too, folks, is the note a whole step below the root. Sounds nice to come back to, like go. Okay. And you could even play when you get up top here. If you wanted to go further, the higher note is the 20th fret. Sounds like I need to get my intonation checked a little bit. Sounds a little bit out of tune there. But the others are in tune. Okay? So taking that idea, folks, that's a good exercise to do to help you get familiar with it. What else can we do to make it sound more Middle Eastern? All right. What if we do a lick like, okay, check this out. It's not written in the tablature. You know what? I just see a comment there. Let me make sure I get to everybody. Richard's saying if you're playing in the key of G, the second chord is A minor, but sometimes an A7 is played. Will an A Dorian scale work over the A7 chord? That's a really good question, Richard. See, when we're playing over several chords and the chords start to be non-diatonic, which means they're like what you said right there. Diatonic means it's in the key. It's one of the chords that are built into the major scale. Non-diatonic is a chord that's still might sound good, but it's not in the key we're in. It's not one of the 7 chords when you build your major scale chords that you get. Okay. That when that happens, you don't really want to play the mode over that, Richard. You want to play something that follows the A7 chord. Now, my question for you, Richard, is what note or notes in the A7 chord don't fit the A Dorian? Okay, you got to, if you know that, that will help us to talk about, well, what would you play over A7? Okay, see if you can answer that, Richard, in the chat. And then if you get it right, then I'll talk to you about the next thing. All right, Virtuoso for God said, all right, Richard, you're right. Yep. And Virtuoso said something that really cool. Generally, A Mixolydian is played over A7. There's only, when you harmonize the major scale and you add the 7th degree in, you get those jazzier chords, you end up with the pretty sounding C major 7, D minor 7 is the 2 chord, E minor 7 is the 3 chord, F major 7 is the 4 chord, G7 or G dominant 7 is the 5 chord, A minor 7 is the 6, and B minor 7 flat 5 or B half diminished is the 7, and then back to the 1 at the octave, C major 7. Okay, so I just ripped through those pretty quick, but you can always watch this again and check it out. There's only one chord that's a dominant 7. So it's really easy. Whenever I'm playing a song and someone plays a dominant 7th chord, there's only one choice. It's Mixolydian. And because Virtuoso said the right thing there. That's what I would play over A7. You would actually play A Mixolydian. And Richard, you said the 3rd. So A7 has a major 3rd. A minor or A minor 7 has a minor 3rd. It has a little more of a darker, smokier sound. Okay, the minor 7. A dominant 7, you want to play a lick that played that major 3rd. Now, if you compare the A Mixolydian to A Dorian, Richard, and Virtuoso, I'm sure, knows this, there's only one note that's different between those two modes. It's the 3rd. So A Dorian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. A Mixolydian is 1, 2, not a minor 3rd, a major 3rd. And I like to actually play it here. Same note, you can just play it in a different spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. So Mixolydian is kind of like the major scale, but with that flat 7. So over that, okay, that would sound cool. You can also, it's playing a note that doesn't fit the A7, but play the minor 3rd with a quick hammer to the major 3rd. A lot of blues players and rock players do that. And then try to play the flat 7 too. So you have to experiment with it, Richard, and try, playing some ideas over till you catch and grab onto something that works for you. But good, I'm glad that worked. And then at Akita saying, how do you play a minor pentatonic scale? All right, well, we're really not kind of focused on that, Akita, right now. We're doing the modes, which are actually a lot more advanced than the minor pentatonic scale. Just real quick for you, in the 5th fret position, if you play it in A minor, it would be the 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th fret, 7th on the 5th string, 5th fret, 7th on the 4th, 5th fret, 7th on the 3rd, and then 5th fret, 8th fret on the 2nd and 1st. Okay? So if you're not even familiar with how to play a minor pentatonic, Akita, you might want to check out Guitar Tricks lessons on the minor pentatonic scale. We got a lot of them. And hopefully you remember Guitar Tricks, Akita. If you're not, check out their website. I know they've got different deals going for subscribing and trial offers. So check them out. And they've got a money-back guarantee too. So I know that they'll keep everybody happy. And I know you'll be satisfied. The site has a lot of stuff on it if you're not a member already. But you should check that out first. So a lot of what we're talking about right here is probably way over your head. I really recommend everyone too, if you're not quite getting all this stuff, then just take a few steps back and don't worry about it. Just start with something just a little above where you're at. If you don't know your minor pentatonic scales, you need to start with them. They're way easier because there's only 2 notes per string and there's only 5 notes in the scale. Think about it. Pentatonic, penta means 5, tone, tonic is tone. These modes, though, have 7 different notes because they're built off the major scale, the diatonic major scale, which has 7 notes when you do the do, re, mi. That's 7 notes. The 8th note is the octave of the first, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so check out this lick right here that sounds kind of neat to give a sitar sound. We're going to start 7 on the first string. We're going to pick both strings. Let me focus on just the first string first, though. We're going to go 7, pick that, then pick the 5th fret, hammer onto the 7, pull up to the 5, and then quickly slide the 5 up to the 7. Now, if you can do it like this, that's our lick, and we're going to do that with each next 2 notes. If you throw in the 2nd string open, okay, now we're going to do it with the 8th and 7th fret. Okay, same thing. 8, pick, 7, pick, hammer onto 8, pull up to 7, slide to 8. Then 10, 8, 12 to 10, 14 to 12, 15, 17, 19. Okay, it's kind of hard up that high. Okay, so all together. Okay, or maybe at the end when you do the 15, 17, 15, don't bother playing the last one. Just put your ring finger on it. It is kind of squishy up there for me. And I think most of us with the electric guitars will find it kind of tight up there too. That would be cool. Now check this out. To do a descending, which is a little different. Okay, we're going to do something different. We're going to start with 19 on the first, 17 with the hammer-on pull-off. But instead of sliding up, I'm going to slide down to the next scale note. So I'm going to go 19, 17, hammer to 19, pull up to 17, and then a quick slide to the 15. Okay, and now throw in the 2nd string. Oops. Then 17, 15, slide to 14. 15, 14, slide to 12. 14, 12, slide to 10. 12, 10, slide to 8. 10, 8, slide to 7. And maybe do one more. 8, 7, slide to 5. And then just come back to 7 with your 3rd finger. Just experiment with it. Have fun with that. Okay? Now, last thing real quick, and then we're done with Phrygian. Let you explore that for a while. Just keep it simple, folks. I know I got an email from someone asking about, what chord progressions would I play this over? Just keep it simple. Just having one chord to groove over, and you can find a lot of, search on YouTube. I'm sure you can find a lot of backing tracks that are just one chord vamps, one chord backing tracks. Make sure you pick, if you're doing E Phrygian, make sure your key you're playing over is an E minor chord or in E minor. And it should be simple, just E minor to F. That's all you got to do, because we want to listen what the scale sounds like over the tonic, the root note. We don't want to clutter it up with a bunch of other chords, because as soon as there's a lot of other chords, we need to start following those chord changes. And what that means, folks, is that we're getting away from the root tonality that we started with. Okay, so try to keep it simple. Here's the neat thing with the Phrygian, and if you raise the third degree and make it a major third, listen to this. Here's the E minor or E Phrygian with the minor third. If we make it a major third, just raise it a half step. So you'll see on your neck diagram I gave you last week, everybody. Cool. Second chance. All right, great. We'll see you next week if you're around. Appreciate it. Second chance band, Marianne. If you look in the black dots I've given you on your cage pattern, okay, look at all the flat threes. Just raise those 1 fret. You got one on the 6th string 15th fret, just play it on the 16th fret. You've got another one up here on the 3rd string 12th fret. Just raise it so you're on the 13th fret. And then we got one more up here on the 15th fret 1st string. Just raise it so you're on the 16th fret. If you raise all the flat thirds 1 fret higher, listen to this. It sounds even more kind of dark and Middle Eastern sounding. That's the scale that a lot of the Spanish guitar players use. Yngwie Malmsteen uses that a lot too. When he plays Phrygian, he often will make the third a major. Hear the sound of that? Sounds even cooler. And it gives you another half step. Regular Phrygian scale only has 2 different pairs or 2 different half steps. You got a root to a flat 2nd, and you got a 5th to a flat 6. Then a root to flat 3rd or flat 2 again. And then you got your 5th to the flat 6, and then the root to the flat 2. But when you add the major third, that major third to the 4th is a half step. If you put the major third, the G sharp, on the 5th string, 11th fret, you got this. Instead of that, and then you can shift up and play the rest as written. But here it is without thinking about shifting the third. Okay, it's kind of a neat little thing, adjustment that you can do to the scale to make pull another neat sound out of it. Chew on that, everybody. And oh yeah, too, if you are going to play over a backing track for that, you'd want both chords. Since we made the 3rd degree major, that's where the Spanish guitar players play E major, and then they just raise it 1 fret, and you get that really cool Spanish sound and F major sound. Okay, it's actually a more sophisticated F major. It's like an F major 7 with a sharp 11, but just for simplicity, I just tell my students to raise the E up, and we'll call that a Spanish sound and F chord. Okay, so that's when you hear like Malagueña, you know that actually plays the major third on the first part, and it's in E Phrygian. But then on the way down, the melody plays the G. It goes back to just a regular Phrygian. So what you call the Phrygian when you raise the third, it's a Phrygian dominant scale. That's the actual term for it. So the actual Malagueña, they kind of putt around with the 2, going between Phrygian dominant and just Phrygian. See, it's got a very hip Phrygian sound to it. So Chew on that, everybody. Next week, we're going to start Lydian. This is a really cool, interesting scale. Steve I does it a lot. Joe Satriani does it a lot. I'll give you some song examples of different musicians and bands using Lydian and show you some simple chord progressions to practice it over and talk about the theory and concepts. We're going to compare it to the major scale and see what's different about it compared to these modes that we just learned today in the last bunch of weeks. All right, good solid lesson. Glad everyone's picking up a little bit. Sorry if I'm a little too much on the theory, but if you want to know the modes, anyone can buy a book and just learn how to play the pattern. But what I'm trying to do is go deeper, peel back some of the layers and go deeper into, well, why does it sound the way it does? That's what I want to kind of bring out to everybody here. Okay. So let me just read the comments and we are done for the night. Richard, appreciate it. Danny, cool. John, all right. Awesome. Zane, cool. Appreciate it. King 50. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Jim, coolness. All right. Everyone have a great night. Be safe. Next week, we're on mode number 4, Lydian, and we're going to spend 2 weeks on that. All right. Everyone have a great night. Appreciate it. Keep them fingers flying and keep practicing. Okay. Enjoy guitar. Have fun with it. See ya. Bye.